Greetings folks, Iolair here. This video will cover the audio settings for World of Warships as of 096, and yes, this is no coincidence since today, July 16th, Wargaming did post an article to the World of Warships website covering the audio settings in 096, and I thought to cover things visually since some folks like to see things actually in the game live, as opposed to trying to read through an article. If you already know everything about the audio settings or you're happy with how your audio is working right now, obviously feel free to skip the video, but I thought to do something visually that might be useful for some folks. So to access the audio settings, go to the main menu in the top left, click on the settings button, and then click on the audio tab in the middle. So I'll walk through each of these and I'll try to be pretty concise. I'm not going to go into hopefully too much detail and make the video too long, but there's a fair number of settings here and some of them have more influence over the audio experience than others. So the first setting is this slider, the general volume level. This acts as sort of a general scaling of the overall volume of everything else in the game. I tend to ride this in the middle, and then I'll adjust everything else as far as fine tuning, which is mostly on the right hand side here, which I'll get to for sort of the nuanced controls that I want over the audio loudness or volume. The next entry here is the sound quality. There are three choices: low, high, and ultra. I choose high. Low is suitable for folks that have maybe an older PC or a PC that doesn't have a lot of computing power, or you just don't want very high fidelity audio. Then choose low. I think most people will probably be high. Some folks might be ultra, which provides a much higher fidelity of audio, maybe more for audiophiles. If you have a really good sound system and good headphones, you might be interested in using ultra, but I think for most people, high is generally pretty suitable. Next item is the voiceover language. So this is going to be the default language that is used when some voice has to be used and you're not using some national voice, which I'll get to here in a moment. So when you are in port, or if there is some announcement in the game while you're playing a match that doesn't align to any other specific nationality, this is the default language that you will hear. A good example of that is that if you are in a game and a player in a Pan-Asian ship says something and uses one of the audio cues, like one of the quick commands, you will by default hear this in English because there are no non-English specific languages heard for, or there are no national specific languages for the Pan-Asian ships. So this is the default language you would hear. The next entry is the voiceover modification, and there are sort of four properties that you can choose from. First one is standard. This will, if you choose standard, you will simply hear everything in whatever your default voiceover language is, regardless of nation or anything. So if you choose English as your voiceover language and then choose standard as your modification, everything will be in English. If a German ship says something, you'll hear it in English. If a Russian ship says something, you'll hear it in English, etc. So this is this acts as sort of a default. The next entry is national, and what this will use is the default national language for a particular ship without using any of the special commanders that are associated with any of the ships, like the Mighty Jingles or Com Richards or the ARP ships or anything like that. So national will simply use whatever the language is of the ship that's issuing the command or issuing some sort of voice event. Then the next choice is National VoiceOver Plus, and what this will do is this will give not only the default national voiceovers, but if someone is in a particular ship that has a specialized commander like the Mighty Jingles or Com Richards or one of the ARP voice actors, that is what you will hear. And then if they're not using one of the specialized commanders, then you will hear whatever the normal national voice is. I happen to use National VoiceOver Plus, so I can hear the specialized commanders. Some people find that annoying because some of these other voices are like the captain, I forgot what it's called, the bad advice cap. He doesn't actually say any words. It's a lot of sort of grunts and groans and sort of just sort of non-verbal noises that come through. So some people don't like to use this setting, but that's up to you. And then the rest of the settings here is you can choose a specific commander and you will always hear that commander. It doesn't matter what ship you're in or what ship you're hearing from. This is what you're going to hear all the time. So some people like the Mighty Jingles, they choose the Mighty Jingles, and then everything is Mighty Jingles. It doesn't matter what it is. So that's up to you. So I happen to use National Voiceover Plus. The next choice is the music mode. I don't happen to listen to music in port or in battle, and I'll get to why here in a moment. But there are sort of various themes that you can go with as far as music is concerned. Original is the original sort of dramatic, short music pieces that have existed in the game for a long time. There's dynamic, where the music, the tempo and the volume and the characteristic of the music will change depending upon how close or far you are from action. Mixed is sort of a blend between the original and dynamic, and is characterized by wargaming as sort of being the best of both. Some people like having mixed. And then lastly, there's a choice called war drums, which is all sort of drum based background music, if that's something that appeals to you. Obviously, if you do want to listen to music, you can choose from one of these. You also have a choice to listen to your own music, which I'll get to here in a moment. But these are the four choices as far as music mode here. The next choice is audio source. And you either have earphones, which means like headphones or something that's physically in or on your ears, as opposed to speakers, which are obviously playing music or playing things into the open air. Wargaming slightly adjusts the audio characteristics depending upon which source you use. I happen to use headphones, so I choose the earphone choice. But if you have speakers, you may prefer to hear speakers. So up to you. Next item is quick messages voiceover. This is going to be something that each person's going to have to decide whether they want or they don't want. So when players issue quick commands, so this is like, requesting assistance or focus fire or, provide AA support or things like that, activating this choice gives you the audio cue. If you turn this off, then you will only see those quick messages show up in the chat window. So I prefer to have this turned on because about half of the audio or the quick messages I do actually want to hear and I want to pay attention to. And then the other half are usually just things are noise and I can just ignore. Sometimes you get somebody who's just constantly spamming these quick messages and you can just block them, and then you don't have to turn it off entirely, but you can just block individuals who are, too aggressive with their use of the quick commands. Next choice is wide dynamic range. And what this does is it adjusts the volume and sort of the dynamics of the audio depending upon the distance of the source of the audio. So if you have a player who is very far from you that issues a quick command, this feature will make it sound like that request is coming from farther away, as opposed to a ship that's closer to you that issues the same command will make it sound closer. So this is more of an ambient sort of realism type characteristic. I like having this on because I think it adds a nice sort of dynamic dimension to the audio. Loudness compensation, I don't use this and it's normally turned off by default. What this does is this sort of equalizes the sounds for almost everything so that things that are maybe softer will still come through. I haven't used this, so I can't attest to like how useful or meaningful this is. So if you're interested in this, you may have to experiment with it by turning it on or off and seeing how it affects the audio for your experience. Voice assistant. I don't remember what this does. I'll probably post a comment in the on the video once I go back and figure out what this is. I don't remember what exactly this does, but I'm sure once I see it, I'll kick myself, and I'll have to go back and like I said, I'll post a comment to the video to confirm. Okay, next choices over here affect the. Actually, let me skip the. I'll cover this here. So the next section is the voice chat. So I don't happen to enable voice chat because I use Discord and TeamSpeak and some of these other resources for voice communication. If you happen to use the in-game voice chat, you could turn this on. You can adjust the chat volume level. You can control which microphone is used for capturing your voice. You have microphone sensitivity so that if you want to have a little bit of a noise gate and cut out some of the background noise that's near you, you can turn that off. And then there's a transmission mode, which you can choose between either push to talk, which means that you have to hold down a key while you're talking, or you can use toggle, which acts as a sort of a gate. Either you turn it off or turn it on to act as a unmute button rather than holding it down to speak. So again, that can be something that you could prefer. You may prefer to do if you use the in-game voice as opposed to like within your division, as opposed to using some third-party team communication system like Discord or TeamSpeak or whatever. Okay, so that's this left side. Now on the right side, this is where we get a lot of the fine-tuning. And this is where I spend most of the time. So like I said, first of all, I don't happen to listen to music in port or in battle. Personally, so the music in port doesn't inspire me much. If I'm going to listen to something in the background while I'm in port, I'll turn on some other source, either my private library of music, or I'll play that through some third party music application on my PC, or I'll be listening to something through YouTube or Spotify or whatever. So I turn this off. I don't like listening to music in battle. That's me. I don't want it because I find it distracting. I prefer to listen to things that are relevant to the game. But that's just me. I know lots of people that love listening to music and very loud music while they're playing, and it doesn't distract them. So that's entirely up to you. This control affects the music that you listen to that the game provides. And again, if you don't use the in-game music, you can just turn that off and then listen to your own music source. Interface volume, this controls how loud interface events sound. So like when you click on an option or perform some operation, this is how loud that sort of audio cue will come through to you. I want this fairly loud so I get sort of audio confirmation, so that when I click on something, like I choose an option or I change a consumable or something, that I get a very clear audio cue that the game has made that change. It sort of acts as confirmation. It's a good usability feedback element. Engine sounds, this is ambiance. I don't want this relatively loud. I don't want to hear the sound of a diesel engine or a steam turbine roaring in my ears, at full blast while I'm playing the game, but having the sort of the ambiance of that I'm on a ship with an engine, I keep this relatively low. Voice message volume, again, this is where the control of the quick message voiceover and these other voiceover languages come into effect. I generally want this to be fairly loud for me so that I can hear it clearly. This should be like, this is the thing that these are the events that I need to listen to. All right, that this is an ambiance. This is like an event is happening that I need to pay attention to. So this is the one that I turn up the most. Ambient sound volume is like the engine sounds. It's all ambient background sound. So this is like the sounds that are in port when like planes are flying around, or there are seabirds or whatever, or even during game when you have some of those things, the splashing of water and stuff like that. Again, I'd like to have the ambiance that like I'm at sea, but I don't want this so loud that it's like dominating the experience and it doesn't drown out other things that are more important for me to be listening to, like the voiceovers. Gunfire volume, I have this in the middle. because I do want to hear that my guns go off, but again, I don't want it to be so dominant that it overwhelms what, again, for me is the most important aspect, which is the voiceover, where there's something that's actually happening that I need to pay attention to. Damage audio volume is the sound of damage that you're taking or delivering. Again, I don't want this to be too loud. This can be startling if it's like really loud. Like if you have a detonation or you get, you get a big hit, take a big hit from something, it can be quite startling for me. So I want to know that I take damage, but I don't want it to be so dominant that it overwhelms my experience. The radio communication effect, this simulates the effect of like radio communication that's occurring like during battle events, and you're hearing sort of back talk and things like that, and also influences the audio characteristics of the voiceovers when they're issued by ships and things like that. So if some ship issues a quick message to say, hey, focus fire on this target or whatever, this slider affects the radio communication sort of ambiance of that sound. I turn this off because, well, I just haven't experimented with it too much, but right now I guess I want the audio voiceover to be clear. And that I'm not spending time deciphering mentally what something was said with because of special audio effects. So I just happen to turn this off. That's me. Again, you can play with it and see what you might like to do. You do have the option in Warships to activate Listen to Your Own Music, which requires placing your music in a special folder under your Wargaming installation. I suppose I do know people that have done this. I personally think that if you've got a library of music that's sitting on a PC or on the cloud or something, you're probably using a third-party app to listen to that music anyway. I don't know that you necessarily need to dump your music into a dedicated folder on the Warships installation. That's up to you, but this is another option for listening to music if you want to. And then last item here, or one of the last items here, is enable ship horns. Some people don't like listening to ship horns. They find it annoying. I happen to like having it so that if like there's a near imminent collision because somebody's not paying attention to me or I'm not paying attention to them, it's kind of like a traffic horn when driving a car. So I think it's useful to have, and so I keep this on. And then voice chat processing affects the voice chat controls, but I don't have this turned on. I'm not sure exactly how this works, and the World of Warships website article doesn't cover this in a lot of detail, so I'm not sure why you would change it to anything other than standard, or have it to be anything other than standard. So that is kind of the whole shooting match here as far as the audio settings. Hopefully some of this was useful to folks. And again, this is not unique to 096, although 096 did make some adjustments. They've enriched the number and types of sounds that you can have, and therefore some of these controls, especially on the right where you're sort of fine-tuning things, can have influence on some of those new sound effects that you're getting, especially like with damage. You may want to fiddle with a little more to get it to a level that's comfortable for you so that it's meaningful without being distracting, but that's up to each individual player. So I hope this video was useful. Obviously, once you're done with any changes, either apply them or just click OK, and you'll go back to port. But hopefully this video was useful for folks that were interested in the audio settings. Again, I hope everybody does have a good rest of the week and a good weekend. And as always, we hope to see you out there in the virtual seas, and we wish you happy sailing.